apologies. Good afternoon and welcome to the Scottsdale Development Review Board public meeting. The purpose of the Development Review Board is to maintain the quality of development in Scottsdale by reviewing all of the design aspects of a proposed development and the relationship of its design components to the surrounding environment and community. The board also reviews all preliminary plats for subdivisions to assure conformance to policies and ordinance requirements. The agenda will consist of the roll call, public comment on non-agendized items, administrative report, meetings approval, and action items. A roll call vote will be taken after each item's motion. The liaison will call each board member's name to indicate their desired vote for that item, and the vote, after the vote has been counted, the liaison may read out the final vote. Citizens wishing to speak during public comment time or to speak specifically on an agenda item may fill out the blue request to speak card to the staff table before the agendized item is to be discussed. Citizens interested in submitting a written comment on any item may submit a yellow written comment card in person to the staff table prior to the beginning of public testimony. Thank you for your time and interest. We will now begin the meeting with the roll call.
Vice Mayor Duboscis.
Present.
Vice Chair Brand.
Here.
Commissioner Ertel.
Here.
Board Member Pieser.
Here.
Board Member Fakih.
Present.
Board Member Mason.
Here.
Board Member Robinson. 6 present. Thank you.
Public comment for non-agendized items. Citizens may address the members of the Development Review Board during public comment. Public comment time is reserved at the beginning of the meeting for citizens to comment on non-agendized item. Do we have any public comments today?
Vice Mayor Duboscis, we do not.
Okay.
Not for non-agendized items.
Okay, great. We'll move to the administrative report.
Thank you again, and good afternoon. Just real quickly, we just want to state that there will be a meeting in 2 weeks on the 15th. We have a couple items on that agenda, so hopefully we see you all there today. And I do not think we have any agenda or comment cards on any items on the agenda, but we will be presenting as staff, and the applicants are also here to present for those items when we get to those. Other than that, that concludes my administrative report. Thank you.
You said that we will have a meeting on May 15?
Correct.
May 1?
May 1, we will also have a meeting. I'm sorry. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
All right, we'll move on to the approval of the March 20th DRB meeting minutes. Do I have a motion?
Yes, I'll make a motion. Move to approve the regular meeting minutes, March 20th, 2025, Development Review Board meeting as presented.
Second.
And
Vice Mayor Duboscis.
aye.
Vice Chair Brand.
Yes.
Commissioner Ertel.
Yes.
Board Member Pieser.
Yes.
Board Member Fakih.
Yes.
Board Member Mason.
Yes.
Motion passes 6-0. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we'll move on to the regular agenda. The first item is the bishop. Do we have a presentation?
Hello and good afternoon, Vice Mayor Duboscis, Vice Chair Brand, and Development Review Board members. I'm Brian Clough with the city's planning department. I'm going to give you a brief overview of the Bishop, case 12DR 2024. The specific request this afternoon is for approval of the site plan, landscape plan, and building elevations for a new 3-story mixed-use development that includes 17 dwelling units and approximately 4,300 square feet of commercial floor area on a 1.13 acre site. The site we're looking at is located within the Old Town area near the Goldwater curve there on the south end. It is west of Scottsdale Road and fronts on 2nd Street to the north. Here's a closer look at the subject site at 2nd Street in Bishop. You can see some existing structures on the building. There was previously a restaurant there that's been vacant for a number of years, as well as a smaller office building on the south end of the site. The site has since been demolished and cleared in anticipation of the future development. The surrounding area is mostly other low-scale commercial uses and residential in the area. The existing zoning is commercial C3 in our downtown overlay, which does allow the proposed mixed-use development as shown today. This is a look at the proposed site plan for the mixed-use development. On this graphic, I'll note that north is to the left of the screen. So we have Bishop Lane on the top and 2nd Street over here. The 3-story building includes commercial office space at the hard corner here at 2nd and Bishop. Some podium surface parking that will serve the commercial development, and then the 17 units above. And what you can see on the ground floor here are the garage spaces for the residential units that front the alley side with access to those private garages via the alley. The site plan also includes new 8-foot sidewalks and landscaping across both frontages. Here's a look really quick at the landscape plan, so you can kind of see some of that pedestrian circulation there, the new sidewalks, the existing parallel parking along Bishop and 2nd Street will be remaining. The street trees along there are a mesquite species to help shade the sidewalk. There are also building overhangs that will provide shade for the pedestrian along these street frontages. Here's a look at some of the building elevations. On this screen here is the east on the top and the west elevation on the bottom. You can see it as a 3-story building, capping out at about 36 feet in height. That's exclusive of the mechanical unit on the mechanical equipment on the roofs. And then on the right-hand part of the slide here, you can see the north elevation and then the south elevation. That south elevation is a common property line, 0 lot line condition there. And then on the left, you can see some of the materials that are proposed on the building elevations. There is a variety of materials used across the building. There's concrete, stucco, some metal mesh, block, and then also some veneer, as well as some faux wood siding. Getting into some of the architectural perspectives, this is a view of that east elevation fronting on Bishop. A quick look at the north elevation on 2nd Street. And then this is a look down that pedestrian walkway that's along North Bishop, so you can see how some of the landscaping and building overhangs provide shade for that walkway. So just really quick to summarize, the action requested this afternoon is for approval of the site plan, landscape plan, and building elevation for the mixed-use development that we've just reviewed. That concludes staff's presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions, and the applicant team is also here with a presentation prepared and available for questions. Thank you.
Thank you. I think I'd like to see that presentation, please.
Good afternoon, Madam Vice Mayor. I'm CP Druitt with Druitt Works, and this is my partner, Gordon Berry. We're both with Pario Development. Just to run through the project quickly, we've been working alongside the staff here at Scottsdale now for more than 2 years, and it's been a long, arduous road, but I'm thankful that we have such a partnership, and it's been great working with Brian. So presently, we have 17 luxury condos. We have a ground floor commercial office space, approximately 4,700 square feet. And then that office space is also has a 2nd story element opportunity here. The office space then, or commercial space, could reach upwards of 6,800 to 7,000 square feet. We're well under our density. Density numerics are, we could have 35 units per zoning and we're at 17. And then we're within height compliance. One of the larger objectives of the project was to really elevate and heighten the pedestrian experience now in this developing museum district. So we really wanted to have a building that conveyed the art district and provided great opportunities for pedestrian and passageway through. It's a good connective tissue between Scottsdale Road and some of the other future developments that we're looking at coming on board here in Scottsdale. So it just adds a nice cohesive communication of the building to pedestrians upward. The building steps back, and this east facade on the building, it was really critical that we activate it, so a lot of our outdoor living spaces are focused on this fringe. So this whole facade was one of our larger objectives. We have desert muted tones that we've used across the project, as we'll see further in further slides. This is an approximate schedule that we're hopeful, and we're hopeful to deliver the units in the first quarter of 2027. I'll run through some of our renderings. This is that hard corner that we've looked at multiple times. And then we have, of the 17 units, 12 of the units have access off of the alley. And then 5 of the units will enter off of that parking area that's facing east off of Bishop. This gives you a little more of an idea on how the living spaces will engage this eastern facade and the indoor-outdoor environment. The context of the alleyway was important as, as further developments. One of the things we partnered with Scottsdale is expanding this alley. There were some compressive areas along the alley, so we've added dedicated, et cetera, some additional area along our sight line on our western border to get a nice cohesive alleyway through, because it was a little checkered, and this gives us a nice thoroughfare through there. And then this is the northern face. It's the most visible face of the building, and I think, again, this is where we're elevating that pedestrian experience. This gives you an idea of looking out of the units, celebrating them at Dow Mountains and some of the distant views. Again, our pedestrian way. This gives you the context on the lower portion of this slide of covered commercial parking and the context of the garage, the private garage units. This gives you a story of the materiality. Primary material is a combed limestone, gives us nice texture. It's a nice warm desert tonality. We have zinc fascia, architectural concrete. We're deploying hemlock soffits on all the underside of our roof lines. We have a multiple stucco color, and then we're going to utilize our some breeze blocks that are along the east facade that help separate the parking from the pedestrian experience. Largely, we're 50% below the max density. Right-sizing the project was something that was very important to us. And, as to really play into the hand of what the future zoning and other developments that are underway in this area. And we're available for questions.
Thank you. Do we have any questions for the applicant or for the city staff?
My question concerns the western facade where the garages are. I noticed that you have along there planters on both sides of the garage entryways. Is there concern or that those, whatever you put there will get out of hand and get too large and could interfere with either sight lines or vehicle traffic? Have you addressed that?
Certainly. We, multiple things, we could invite a stipulation on what the plantings are. I know that oftentimes those can grow and become a sightline hazard. We would like to establish something that could help assist in softening the alleyway. We'll also have an HOA in place, and we're glad to stipulate in our HOA that both continual maintenance and/or species, or it could just be something that we affix as part of the building landscape package, is something that would remain that we could all find agreeable.
Okay, thank you.
Question?
Go ahead.
Is George Ortel here. First of all, I like the design. I like the way it looks. I'm not an expert, certainly, but it does look good to me. But you mentioned, the applicant mentioned that it was a 2-year process to work through this, and then you anticipate another 6 months, maybe roughly 6 months, to get permitted. Could both you and staff talk me through, what the contributions were? Obviously it made the project better, but I'm just curious why what went into it. It would take 2 years plus another 6 months to get permitted.
A good bit of what the timeline that ate up to 2 years was exploring the solution. And this zoning and the zoning versus the site versus the length of the site, it sort of created multiple layers of, we'll say, opportunities on creating a facade and elevation that would be compliant. And also a lot of this has just been exploratory and looking at different options. A great deal of the time was spent in design rather than it wasn't a circular process. And then with regard to our timing on permitting, we're currently underway with our documentation, and as of how the outcome of today, we'll be able to put a little further definition on exactly the full timeline on delivery of documentation and permitting.
Okay, so if I understand, most of the time was when the ball was in your hands. I'm probably saying this inartfully, but the city was waiting on you rather than you were waiting on the city. Is that fair characterization or not?
It's fair to say. I don't think that any of the process with regard to the city didn't add time per se. It's just us, yes, coming back with different iterations. It was just this iterative process.
Okay. Well, an iterative process. So what required, to be oversimplified, why was it more than one iteration?
I would say searching for the greatest and best use for the site, with both from an economic standpoint to a timing standpoint to the overall valuation and achieving the best effort. I mean, there's endless options that we could have put here, and doing the proper market research and things to find out, greatest and best use.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much.
Councilman, can I have a question? May
Go
I have a
ahead.
question? Thank you, Councilwoman. Just a quick question. I love the architecture. I mean, you guys do amazing work, and I love the style. I love the building. I just have a couple of questions on the material. especially the one here where we see it. I think this is your southern elevation on the screen and your west, right? Actually, the north and the west. This is what you have here. Okay, where you have this kind of like a, can you tell me a little bit about this material you have, especially the big architecture feature where you have the back door, I'm assuming behind, covering the stairways here? Yes, this one.
This piece?
Yes.
That piece, right now, we're exploring an architectural concrete or a fiber reinforced concrete cladding.
And this is the reason I asked, because I mean, we've seen those looks beautiful when they started, and then through the weathering, the wind, the rain, they start getting colored really quick. So do you see this, is the material using will be, holding weather for a while? Or I'm concerned about the concrete, this porous material is going to get whatever, get to it. So I don't know if this is a concern for you guys or not.
Sure. I would think that any materiality that we use on this face is something that we would use a penetrating sealer, and that would thwart any of that sort of unfavorable aging. And because it's recessed, I think it's going to help out with a lot of the exposure, and it's on the north side of the building, so just northern building portions here in our climate tend to not get hit as hard. So I think the climate's a little more gentle.
Yeah, I just want to bring this up. Obviously, I will leave it up to you and the staff, just kind of like for long-term maintenance / appearance. The second question I have is a flat roof, which usually we don't see much in the commercial, right? Which is, or residential / condo. I don't see any parapet here, right? You only have a screening around the mechanical. I'm assuming all of those mechanical equipment are for all the units, right? Not each unit has its own mechanical. But there is no parapet. This is the only area you have right now in the perspective that's going to be screened, or I see more on the west facade as well.
Correct. The fascia is approximately 32 inches, and that will leave a 4-inch curb on the roof side. And our anticipation is that we would use tapered foam insulation, or rigid tapered insulation with a TPO roof. And with that system, we can slope per code in the neighborhood of a 1/4 inch per foot. And right now, with all of our present modeling, we're able to zero everything out and keep a nice equally divided roof. And then we have on this internalized roof drains, and we'll take the roof drains down and connect into the storm.
Okay, can we zoom in? Do you have anything about this material you're using for screening right now for the equipment? Because this is going to show up on the southern as well. Yeah, this one. Do you have anything that shows this material?
I don't have, right now what we're using on that is a powder-coated steel, and that's something, arguably it's in this image, we're using steel angles, so we're getting a little bit of shadow on this just because of the rendering processing, but the metal would be powder coated that we use for those surrounds, and it would be in keeping with the rest of the building, so it wouldn't look as visually as heavy.
Yeah, this one I'm having a hard time envision. I think maybe the other architect, or not the other architect on the docket here, could explain more, but I'm having a hard time seeing the screen. Again, I love the building, I love what you've done. This screen here, I'm having a hard time see how it fit with the architecture. It looks okay here on this rendering, but I have never seen a screen that I felt like it looks good when it ended up being installed. So I'm just curious on the material, honestly, on this one. I don't know if there is other option. And I'm assuming whatever you have right now for your duct is going to be all on the top of the ceiling within the unit, right? You don't have any duct going in on the top of the roof. It's all within the unit?
Correct. These would be roof-mounted condenser units, and all the air handlers would be within the units. So all the ductwork would be within the units.
Okay.
Also, I mean, this is one of those images looking down into the building from an actual visibility standpoint. It's not something that a pedestrian or from the street level that would ever become visible. And there's, we're glad to explore some other options on maybe doing something that could tie it into the architecture closer.
Yeah, I would really recommend, I hope, if it's just me, obviously, you don't want the civil engineer just pushes screening on you, but if everyone agreed, it would be good to kind of like maybe explore other screening option, maybe work with staff and with some direction from the board here. The one thing you mentioned earlier, when it comes to the line sight, it seems like you have those units pretty close to the edges, so I don't know if they can be central somewhere where they don't get to be seen from line sight, because when I look at your western elevation, it seems those your units are more on the edge of the west elevation, so they will be really visible from the street, right? They're not like in the middle based on your
The logic on these mechanical units was to have them closer proximity to the alley side.
Okay.
It's not on the edge, it is in, and it does, these units, the mechanical yards do live above a primary closets, so they're in the least sound sensitive area with regard to our unit designs. Right now, without having the exact specificity on the units, there could be an opportunity to lower those. There could be an opportunity to deploy some stucco wall accents. The intention was that these would be very passive. The reality of the image and the rendering is they look a little heavier than I think actually they will be, but.
Okay. Sounds good. Again, I like the building. If there is a way on the screening, positioning it from line sight, changing the material, I will leave it up to the other board member here and how they feel about it. But thank you. Great project. Thank you.
Thank you.
That really sounded like Board Member Faki was asking for my opinion a little. Anyway, I've got a couple. I do have an opinion on that. It appears that from a powder-coated steel standpoint, are you matching the canopies on the ground level with the coating and the color of the steel? I mean, just for reference, from my experience with I feel like the mechanical screening that tends to look bad is pre-manufactured products or B-deck or something like that that's up there. So something that's a powder-coated custom screening, is that what you're proposing here? Is like painted or coated angles that are essentially a custom screening alignment?
Correct. The idea was if we use steel angles, visibility looking up would be completely mitigated. A lot of the prefabricated, if it's a mesh or a perforated steel, you can still see through it.
Yeah.
But the idea of an angle would be able to block any visibility upwards and downwards into those units.
I actually really like that. I think that's a very good design forward solution as opposed to a pre-manufactured product that you're just putting up there to screen it. I'm hoping and suggesting that the aesthetic of the ground level steel accents complement the rooftop steel accents from a paint and finish standpoint. I think that could help to tie it together. I just really think that the rendering probably doesn't showcase what your solution is up there. But personally, I feel like I would be in support of the direction that you're moving right now. I would also like to compliment your team. I think this is a really well done project. I've reviewed this back and forth, and a little bit of light on Commissioner Ertel's comment is, I really hope that you're successful with this, because I know that it takes a lot of time to nail down your market and to understand your unit sizes and understand who you're catering to, and that process takes a long time. So I appreciate you guys continuing to move forward and bring a great project to Old Town. My one comment that I have on the design is really on the southern facade, which it seems like your zero lot line wall is following the essentially the outline of the area that you need to be rated and protected from any openings. I know that property that's between, there's two projects going on here. There's one on the south side and there's one on the north side. It seems like there's a remnant property right in the middle. Is that correct?
Yep.
From staff?
Correct.
I do know, if I remember correctly, the project to the south, I think is doing another zero lot line wall, but it's got like a CMU pattern that's some sort of macro graphic, not a ton of cost, but something that, and I would ask that something that you do on the south, I'm not asking you to code it in a bunch of design features, but something that breaks up either the massing, even like a a 4-inch drop, like something that, I don't know if you have an elevation of that. I think you have it somewhere, or else staff had it in the presentation.
I don't, but, can we go to your presentation, Brian?
Yeah, can we go switch back to the staff presentation?
I know that's the last place that you want to spend money on is on the, but I do think for the time being, it's a condition that's likely going to be there for quite a while.
I think we could easily perforate that facade as well. Yeah, so it's this facade that you're referring to.
It may be as simple as just creating a base condition with a color or texture on the is that intended to be a full concrete wall down there, precast or cast in place?
This presently is just a plastered surface.
Okay.
But I think that we could definitely explore undulating that facade some, and even, it's risky to put any fenestration on that, but I think we could definitely do some undulation.
Yeah,
study.
it could be solved with texture and color, but I think just something that may accent or create a base condition on there, or a little bit of break up the monotony of kind of that singular uninterrupted surface would be welcome. But I would agree. I don't think extensive fenestration, you probably don't have the room to your property line to do that anyhow. Sure. But something with texture and color that from a macro sense would just engage that facade would be great to see. That's my only comment on there at all in the project. So I appreciate the project. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I want to say and agree with my fellow board members that the project is really nice. It should do wonders for that area of the city and for what's there now. As far as the mechanical screening goes, I've seen louvered mechanical screens here in Scottsdale dating back to the 80s. So to me, it's not a new concept. In fact, I like it for the fact from a inspector's point of view, I like it because it allows ventilation to flow through the system, which is extremely important. You start putting hard mechanical equipment screens around equipment and you start having failures. The other thing that I found interesting on this that I like is the use of the plant walls as barriers between units. I don't think I can remember ever seeing that before. The only concern I would have was, that they're properly maintained, because if they weren't, it could look really bad. And what happens when they die? If the HOA will immediately replace them, who's responsible for maintaining them? Is it the owner of the unit, or do they have a service that comes in and takes care of them? But it's just a unique feature of this project, and I noticed it immediately when I was looking at it, and I thought, wow, this is really cool, So, but that would be my only concern about that, would be who maintains it and to make sure that it continues to live and provide the screening that it's meant to provide.
Well, it's utopic to think they'll all live forever. I think certainly we could add some verbiage in our HOA that there's a level of maintenance, and I mean that's really all that we could do in that regard. But I think, whether it's an HOA mandated serviceability standpoint, it is in a unit, so that's a bit invasive. But I think it is fortunately it's on the forward face of the eastern facade, so I think visual inspection's easy, and I think from that standpoint, it's something that could be policed pretty well.
Well, it's such a visual item, especially from the street, that kind of adds to the whole building, I think. But you can understand that if this thing was allowed to grow wild, and it wouldn't look so great.
Certainly.
So that was my only question, as to
Sure.
how it's maintained and what happens if a plant dies, if the HOA will come in and replace it.
Do we have any other questions? It sounds like there's a lot of interest in your plants. So it sounds like there's a little bit of language that we'd like to see in your HOA as far as the maintenance and making sure that those are good. The area that you're developing in very much needs a project like this. It needs an uplift, and so I appreciate you being thoughtful about the Arts District and bringing an offering that's appropriate to that area. And so with that, do we have a motion?
I'll formulate a motion. I'm going to move to approve case 12-DR-2024 per the staff recommended stipulations. In addition to a stipulation to ask the applicant to work with staff on an appropriate articulation to the south zero lot wall, and working with staff to make sure that the plantings that are part of the front elevation have a maintenance solution for them. After finding that the development application meets the Development Review Board criteria and the additional findings for a development in the Old Town area.
I'd second that.
Vice Mayor Duboscus,
Yes.
Vice Chair Brand,
Yes.
Commissioner Ertel,
Yes.
Board Member Peaser,
Yes.
Board Member Faki,
Yes.
Board Member Mason,
I would vote yes, but also would like to include in the, working with staff, the planters along the east-western facade.
all right.
Well,
Motion,
Can we, I'll accept that modification to say that, maybe modify it that plant materials have a maintenance program associated with them on the project.
Chair,
Do we need to redo that?
so you have an amendment to your motion. The second, I'm assuming is okay with
Second.
that? Okay. Then you can go ahead and just vote.
motion passes 6-0.
Thank you.
Thank you. We'll move on to 35DR 2024 BB Living at Cavison.
Thank you, Vice Mayor Duboscus, Commissioner Ertel, and board members Greg Bloomberg with Current Planning here to give you a brief presentation on BB Living at Cavison. This is a project that consists of 191 townhomes and various site plan improvements. The site is located on the northwest edge of the Cavison 130-acre master plan community. You can see the southeast quadrant of that master plan has been almost fully developed. This project, and there's a project to the south, Toll Brothers is doing. So these will be, this project and the Toll project to the south will be the first residential products as part of this Cavison master plan. But it's basically this project, this location is at the southeast corner of Legacy and Miller Road. A closer look at the location. Again, to the south, it would be a Toll Brothers residential project. I believe that's also townhomes. So this is the site plan and the landscape plan combined. Most of the landscaping is along the perimeter, which is very important to the Cavison folks. Lots of trees and then ground cover along. They have 4 street frontages, actually, so there's a lot of buffering along all 4 street frontages. Another key component of this project from a staff perspective was providing connectivity, pedestrian connectivity to those streets, and that is accomplished for all 4 streets. Particularly, I was concerned about this eastern street frontage because that's what connects the site to the rest of the project. So anybody that wants to walk over to the Pitch Restaurant, for example, Cavison would use one of those exits. And there's also a circular park at the center of the Cavison project that's meant to be a community gathering spot. And so this connectivity to that Ravel Road, I thought was rather critical. There's also a dog park and an amenity area. Primary access is shared. I think, is this the primary access or is this considered secondary for you? That's number one? Yeah. This is shared access with the toll community to the south. Went through a couple of different design iterations, but that's what that is. And then this is secondary access off of Legacy Boulevard. From an open space perspective, as I mentioned, the central amenity area, lots of open space and streetscape along perimeter streets. And each unit in this community will have its own private open space at ground level. The units along the south property line will have larger areas, private area, open space areas, which I imagine is kind of just to provide a little bit of buffer from the toll project. But pretty good open space distributed throughout the project. There are two themes proposed as part of this development. There's the modern desert prairie, which this elevation shows. By the way, these buildings are about 36 feet in height as well. There are various size buildings. There's 3-plexes, 4-plexes. This is a 6-plex elevation here, and there's also a 7-plex elevation. So this is the modern desert prairie scheme. And then there's a Spanish theme as well, as displayed here. And each one of the themes has 3 potential material and color palettes, all of which respond favorably to our sensitive design principles, desert-appropriate colors, Sonoran desert colors, and a little bit of variety in terms of the stone that's being used to provide some visual interest to the buildings. And then this is the 3 options for the modern desert prairie theme. Again, as a brief presentation from staff, the applicant does have a presentation if you'd like to see it. Otherwise, I'll open it up for comments or questions.
Let's see the applicant's presentation.
Good afternoon. Presentation's more about kind of BB Living as a whole. BB Living, these will be for rent units. This rendering kind of shows the perspective at the corner there of Miller and Legacy. Just kind of some background on BB Living. We have, been in business since 2011, projects across the nation, built several units, over 1,000 homes here in the Phoenix metro area. And one of the key things for BB Living is we build homes. We're not building apartments. We're not building kind of the smaller for rent side. We build homes. Everyone has attached garages. In this case, every unit has their own driveway, their own private backyard. So very, very important for us in terms of our demographics and what we what we cater to as far as for BB Living. Kind of one of our, our tagline is we build where people want to live, and that's why we're very excited about this project in the Cavazon Master Plan in Scottsdale. Kind of an example, this is another project we're building currently in Mesa. These are townhomes that we're building in Mesa, kind of slightly different than what we're proposing here on the Cavazon Master Plan. Again, very, very high-end finishes on the inside. Elevational on the outside, some very high-end materials. A couple other examples of projects here we have done in the Phoenix area. This is one in Gilbert, BB Living at Val Vista, and then one currently we're leasing there at up in Desert Ridge, kind of a duplex project we're doing there. And just some examples. Again, what we do in our communities are very high-end amenities, from pool, spa, tot lots. On the Cavazon, our BB Living at Cavazon project, we are proposing, again, a dog park. We have sport courts for pickleball, basketball. The fitness, our amenity includes a fitness room, which is very important to us. In this one, we're also doing a sauna, having an outdoor cold plunge as part of that. So again, we have very much some high-end, some outside barbecues, fire pits, so some very nice amenities for our residents here. These are examples of some other projects we've done here in the Phoenix area. The 2 architectural ones there, those are the top one there is a project in Texas we did. And then the other one is a project at BB Living at Union Park up in the North Phoenix area. You know, the site plan that you guys have seen, again, very heavy on the landscape. The main thing for this is, again, going with the theme of in the Cavison master plan there. The walls, the landscaping of a very high quality to kind of match, again, everything else that's been done up in the Cavison. And a lot of it's the playoff of also what Toll Brothers is doing right next to us. You know, kind of keeping with them. We've worked very closely with Toll Brothers over the years, and this is just another project that, you know, we're building right next to them. This was a footprint, just kind of, again, of our amenity building. We have our leasing office, and then separately, again, we have a very nice, you know, fitness room. We have the sauna. We're also planning on doing kind of an indoor driving range, you know, the simulator. Some just, you know, again, some more high-end amenities for our residents up in this area. That was kind of the presentation I had for that. And again, I have the architect here as well if you have any questions for us.
Do we have any questions? Go ahead.
Just one question, thank you. I like the project, I like the layout, the circulation on it. I think it's good to see some dense residential next to the master plan over there. The only question I have, and I know if staff, you know, could answer it, or the applicant, you know, when we do townhomes, I know it's a for rent product, isn't townhomes, you know, like, is it going to be platted as a townhomes, like fee simple, or is it like still multifamily for rent, I guess, so.
No, it was not going to be platted. It's more of a site plan.
Okay.
Kind of one lot, you know, with, yeah.
So this is my confusion. Mine isn't, when you say townhome, usually it is a platted, you know, to be fee simple to sell it. So it's a little bit different between a townhome and a for rent product. So I see this as more as a multifamily project. It's not townhome project. Is this correct or no?
From that point of view, yes, it could be looked at as multifamily because it is one lot with multiple buildings on it. But townhouse has a technical definition in the building code, and it's more about how it's constructed than it is platted. The building code doesn't address if there is or not a property line between the dwelling units. So technically, we're going to build it to meet the building code as townhouses. But from your point of view, it is one lot with multiple dwelling units on it.
What about from the city point of view? Is townhome different than a multifamily?
Vice Mayor DeBascus and Board Member Faki. No, multifamily is kind of a generic term. It covers apartments and townhomes, and whether they're for rent or platted or for sale, it's still multifamily.
Okay, fair enough. Thank you.
Do we have any other questions?
Yes, please. You have the two different elevations, the modern prairie desert, or desert prairie, whichever, and then the Spanish. And then within each one, there was 3 different choices of material, colors. How does that work? I mean, does you simply choose one of the 3 and go with that? Or is, you know, are they staggered? You know, every third one is the first choice? How does that work?
Yes, I'm sorry, I failed to introduce myself as Chris Texter with KTGY. I'm the architect on the project. Thanks for your question. We have gone through and distributed the styles. Sometimes they're next to each other, sometimes they stagger. And then we distributed the color scheme. So we have a wide variety of style and color schemes occurring throughout the site. We will predefine where those are occurring, and then it will be built accordingly.
Okay, thank you.
Go ahead.
I had a couple of questions. One of which is on the dog park itself. You will have dog stations for waste and things like that? And will you be servicing it, cleaning it, things like that?
Yes, yeah. So to answer both questions, yes, we'll have the dog bag stations kind of for the waste stations. And one of the things being a rental community is for BB Living, you know, we own and maintain it. We have on-site property management. You know, similar to an HOA, we just have on-site property management that will have maintenance crews that will, you know, maintain those, you know, daily.
Okay. Another question is on living on this property, eventually you may decide to turn this into a condominium or resale unit. Does your design allow that, or does it preclude that?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
Future use, if you decide to sell the individual units as condominiums, cease being a rental property and become a condominium property, does your design facilitate that or not?
No, the intent is, again, for this to be a long hold on for a rental basis. Being that they're not platted individual lots, it would be a lot more difficult to then transition it to multifamily condo plat you would have to do down the road.
Thank you.
I have one question about the elevations. I think what we saw, it seemed like some of the elevations that we saw didn't have shadows turned on them. They read very clearly for the materials. I do have, in looking at the renderings and some of the elevations, I want to make sure that we've got enough depth on the facades, and particularly on the eaves and the overhangs. It seems like, even on this perspective, that one style on the right has a good shadow line and overhang, and the other style on the left feels pretty flush at the roof. I don't know if that's a very, very specific design intent with the Spanish mission tile, but I think we want to make sure that when we see developments like this, that the facades come off as high quality facades with window depth, with facade texture, with cornice, with shadow lines that are generated by depth on the facade. So from the architectural standpoint, can you walk us through how that's happening on the elevation?
Yes, thank you. Between the two different styles, we did purposely vary the roof eave detail. As you can see on the hip roof, it's pretty consistent overhang all the way around. On the Spanish, it's pretty traditional, so to speak, on the gable ends that they're tighter. So that's what you're seeing here is where the gable ends are. That rake tile comes over right onto the fascia of the building. We find that that's a little bit more historically referencing how it's traditionally built and historically. If it's important, we could extend that overhang, but we also feel like that just puts the eave details and the rake details similar to each other. We do have on the eave portion of that Spanish detail, it does have the traditional overhang. And then furthermore, all the windows are recessed into the wall planes, so all the windows will get a shadow line around them, helping with the desert heat and stuff. And then you can see, of course, in this perspective that we have a variety of materials and textures and colors occurring on every facade.
No, and I would commend you, the team, for the two distinctly different styles. The change up of the shaping of the roofs, I think, is, that's really important. It'll help distinguish the buildings on site and not seem like a giant project. So I appreciate that. I think I would make sure that if staff can take note, that we're working with staff on just making sure that there's depth in the facades. I think the one thing that can hurt some of these projects, and I necessarily don't think that the way that you're doing the eaves the roof structure is totally different. So I don't think that you're going to see a similarity between the two, because you've got a full hip structure across an entire building. So I would just, and maybe it has to do a little bit with just creating a little bit of a bump out on the top of the cornice, or shaping the top of the cornice, something that gives a little bit of, I know that's not, it could be a little bit of a pain, but it's not adding any structure or framing to the building. It's really just maybe something that you're doing with foam to give a little bit of depth to the facade. So I'm going to make a stipulation if there's, I'm assuming that you guys would be okay with staff making sure that that the depth is maintained on the elevation. So it's generally part of our design guidelines anyhow, and the windows are, that's all, I'm assuming that all the window depths are conforming. I appreciate that, but that is actually something that has to be on every single building constructed in Scottsdale. So, but otherwise, I think that the distinction between the styles, the shifting of the building types and the color palettes is a great move, and I'm looking forward to this feeling not like a flat roofed apartment, but feeling like larger shared homes, which I think is a new aesthetic up in the area. So I appreciate the work.
Do we have any other questions? Do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion again, since was there anything else that anybody else said that needed to be included in? Okay. I'm going to move to approve case 35 DR 2024 per the staff recommended stipulations with an additional stipulation for the applicant to work with staff to ensure facade depth along the cornice treatments of the Spanish mission style elevation after finding that the development application meets the Development Review Board criteria.
Second.
Second.
Vice Mayor Duboscus,
No.
Vice Chair Brand,
Yes.
Commissioner Ertel,
Yes.
Board Member Peaser,
Yes.
Board Member Faki. Yes. Board Member Mason.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-1. Thank you.
All right, if that is our meeting, I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.